Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my match predictions for week 25 Premier League fixtures. And if we get anything like we just saw week 24, we are in for a treat. We saw some amazing games happen. We saw Arsenal bounce back at Villa Park, winning in the dying embers of a game. We saw other games at Manchester City drop points at the City ground, and that's not nothing new because we know Nottingham Forest is a tough ground to go to. We also saw Liverpool capture their second win in a row, beating Newcastle at St James's Park, where they remained undefeated. So let's see what's going to be happening in week 25, and like I said, I feel like it's going to be amazing as well. We've got key games like Spurs versus Chelsea in a London derby, two teams which have great hatred towards one another. We also got other games like Liverpool going to Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. We also got a relegation scrap between Leeds and Southampton. This is literally 19th versus 20th, so let's see which team will be able to pick up all 3 points. However, before I go on this video and give my match predictions, you know I'm going to say make sure you guys like, comment and hit that big subscribe button right there, because only 10% of you guys are actually subscribed to my YouTube channel. And make sure you leave your predictions in the comment section who's going to be winning in week 25 Premier League fixtures. So the first game I'm predicting, it has to be this, right? It's the London derby, two teams which hate each other, Tottenham Hotspur versus Chelsea at the new White Hart Lane. And going into this game, we know historically, we know in the past, Chelsea usually batter Tottenham. They sing it all the time. Everywhere they go, Tottenham get battered. Everywhere they go. But going into this game, unusually, Tottenham enter it as the favourites. We know in the last 12 fixtures, Tottenham have not been able to beat them. So this shows mentally they're weak. They don't have the right attitude. And it just feels like they are the little brother, the step brother when it comes to Chelsea. So going into this game, you're the favourites. You're at home. Tottenham Hotspur will be expected to win. And the turnaround has been because of Graham Potter and the new signings which have been injected in the Chelsea side, but hasn't turned Chelsea into winning ways and into a winning formula as of yet. Going into this game, I feel like Graham Potter is under immense pressure. This is because not only are you not finding your identity, a clear vision, your style of play when it comes to Chelsea, it just doesn't feel like he has the correct attitude, he has the right mentality. It feels like he's out of his depth when it comes to riling up the players, try galvanize the players to perform. It doesn't feel like they're passionate on the pitch, it doesn't feel like they're high-spirited, and genuinely it doesn't feel like they believe they can score goals. We have seen it in their last 10 games, only scoring 4 goals, and they're facing teams like Southampton, they're facing teams like West Ham, even a poor Liverpool side at Anfield. You should be able to score goals. It just feels like they just threw a lot of money at the problem, and yes, eventually it may become good, but right now as of yet, it feels like they're playing as individuals. They're not gelling, they don't have the chemistry, they haven't formed bonds across the pitch, and we're just seeing it with a lot of players solo dribble and not being able to pick out the correct pass. Even when they do pass, they move the ball a bit too slow, which is very predictable and allows the opposition to go into a low defensive block. And Chelsea are going to have to change this, especially going against a very stubborn Tottenham side where we know Antonio Conte will be setting up on the counter attack. Going into this game, we know it's a massive 3 points for Graham Potter. Think about it. He has the worst winning record for a Chelsea manager in the last 20-30 years. And this is going up against managers like Andre Villas-Boas, who was extremely poor for Chelsea. Chelsea have only won 2 of the last 15 games. And like I've said, scored 4 out of the last 10. So Graham Potter, if there's any way to turn the fans back onto your side and make them believe it is in this game, the most important game in Chelsea's fixture list when it comes to every season against their arch nemesis. And going into this game, I just don't see how Chelsea are able to win. Everything's too neat, everything's too tidy. Yes, sometimes they can make you in awe with their talented players like Kyle Felix, etc. But in the final third, where it really matters, when you really have to show that knockout punch and you have that power within your side, they can't score goals. Yes, they have thrown so much money at the problem. Yes, they have had so many new signings, but they still don't have that sucker punch, that number 9 who's clinical enough to finish opportunities when they do come. The mood is abysmal around Chelsea. The fans are not in belief. The players are not in belief, and in all actual reality, is Graham Potter, does he believe himself? He's really up for the task to manage Chelsea, especially with him not taking that much blame and blaming the surroundings. And you shouldn't be doing this as a Chelsea manager. You should be shouldering responsibility since you are the leader. You are the head of the snake. Going into this game, it's going to be really tough for Chelsea. The Tottenham players are going to be up for it, especially ending this abysmal record against Chelsea. We know Tottenham Hotspur, although with a slight blip against Leicester City, ever since then they did bounce back and beat West Ham in the London derby 2-0. They showed that fight, that showed their courage, they showed their bravery when it comes to counter-attacking football. And I just feel like against Chelsea's backline with Cucurella, who we know Chelsea fans want out, Thiago Silva, who doesn't have that yard of pace like he once did, Son and Kane are just going to be electric. That's a true partnership. It's pretty much telepathic, and Chelsea lack this in abundance. So going into this game, I think Tottenham Hotspur will counter-attack with speed, intensity and fluidness, and I think Chelsea will not be able to handle them. And especially Chelsea going forward, despite Tottenham Hotspur being very poor this season, I think ranking 15th when it comes to conceding goals, at the end of the day, Chelsea do not have that marksman to punish Tottenham Hotspur's backline. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for Tottenham Hotspur, surprisingly so, within this fixture. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Leicester City versus Arsenal. And what a pivotal game this is going to be for Arsenal, especially if they want to build momentum when it comes to this title race against Manchester City. And going into this game, what a boost that victory against Aston Villa is going to give the Arsenal players and the manager. It's going to make them optimistic, and it's going to make them within their hearts actually think that they can win the Premier League this season. It is no coincidence players like Zinchenko and Jorginho scored, players who are not known for their prowess when it comes to finishing chances, but at the end of the day, they have that championship blood running through their DNA when it comes to Zinchenko winning Premier Leagues and Jorginho Champions League. They know in pivotal moments how to create opportunities, and look, we're finding out for the first time they know how to score goals when it really matters, and this is why Arsenal needed that sort of experience injected within their side, because they're quite young. We know they're the youngest squad when it comes to the Premier League. But what a massive win against Aston Villa. A huge weight lifted off their shoulders, especially losing against Manchester City. Especially not winning in their last 4 to 5 games or so. Especially with Manchester City thinking they're going to win 10 to 12 games in a row. They needed that win against Aston Villa to give them real hope and belief that they're still in the Premier League title race, and they are, because they are sitting top of the Premier League table. However, going into this game against Leicester City, they are going to pose different challenges compared to Aston Villa. Despite Arsenal actually having an impressive record against Leicester City in the last few games or so, winning their last 4, winning 3 out of their last 5 at the King Power Stadium, which is very impressive. At the end of the day, Leicester City are going to be a tough proposition to crack down. Although Leicester City did lose against Manchester United 3-0 at Old Trafford, don't let the scoreline deceive you. Especially in the first half, Leicester City should have been winning at least 2-0 if it wasn't for David De Gea. I like Leicester City's lineup. I feel like Brendan Rodgers shouldn't change his starting lineup. I feel like especially in that first half with Iheanacho dropping in deep, picking up the ball, being that target man. We have seen in the past players like Saliba and Gabriel be poor at defending against this, with players like Calvert-Lewin, players like Haaland, and even Ivan Toney. So with Iheanacho dropping off and giving players like Tete and Barnes fast, quick, dynamic winners to make those inverted runs into the middle, is going to cause Arsenal all sorts of problems potentially within this fixture. Especially on the counter-attack, Arsenal must be worried that they could potentially go a goal down or 2 if they allow too many opportunities for Leicester City to latch on this sort of weakness, especially with Thomas Partey still missing within the Arsenal side, who provides steel and toughness within the midfield, especially defending and protecting that back line. Jorginho did have a great game against Aston Villa, but we still know in that 3-2-5 formation Arteta loves to use going forward, the 2 men in the midfield of Zinchenko and Jorginho aren't known for their defensive discipline, which Leicester City can use to exploit. Arsenal's defence of recent has become leaky, conceding 7 goals in their last 4 games. Their last clean sheet coming against Tottenham Hotspur, which feels like a long time ago. So Leicester City can use this as a confidence booster, potentially to collect all 3 points at the King Power Stadium against Arsenal. However, I'm not going to bet against the Gunners. I just feel like the emotional roller coaster they were just on against Aston Villa is only going to give them the confidence, the high spirits, the optimism they need to go in this game against Leicester City to beat them. They do have the mental edge against Leicester City. We know having an impressive record against them, and I just feel like now they're calm, now they're back to earth and reality. The pressure is not going to be there as much as it was prior to the Nottm Manchester City game, so they know they have breathing space since Manchester City dropped points, so they're not even going to have the anxiety or even the panic attacks on the pitch to not be able to play their fluid attacking brand of football. It should be a straightforward victory for Arsenal. I'm going to go for a 3-1 impressive victory for Arsenal to go back into impressive winning ways against Leicester City. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Bournemouth versus Manchester City, and what a massive 3 points this game is going to be for both sides. We know Bournemouth are in a relegation scrap, whereas Manchester City need the 3 points to put pressure on the league leaders going into the latter half of this Premier League season. And going into this game, Manchester City shouldn't panic, and I don't think they will. They've been here, they've done that. They know about title experiments. They know about trading and catching teams who are ahead of them. And we know going into that game against Nottingham Forest, they felt like they needed to win, but the plans have been changed and they need to just focus on the game against Bournemouth and pick up the 3 points. And in the game against Nottingham Forest, it's not that they played bad. It wasn't as if they were awful. It wasn't as if they were moving the ball slow. They didn't play their fluid attacking brand of football and they weren't dominating the ball. They were in all facets of the game, especially in the first 60 to 70 minutes. They looked like the Manchester City of old, but they just weren't clinical enough in that final third. Foden missing that massive chance where he could have squared it to Haaland or he could have scored. We saw Haaland miss a open goal from 6 to 8 yards out. So Manchester City were doing stuff which they don't usually do. Is this the pressure or is this just a one-off game? So we know Manchester City usually finish off the dinner since they have scored the most goals within the Premier League. And I think this is the latter. I just feel like it was just one of those freak moments, those freak games where nothing really goes your way. And on any other day, they would have dismantled and destroyed Nottingham Forest 4-5 at the City ground, where we know Nottingham Forest have an impressive home record. Going into this game against Bournemouth, it should be straightforward. We know how Bournemouth are going to set up. Defensive, low block, minimise the space within the midfield with floating players like Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva to pick up the ball to create chances for Erling Haaland within the final third. We know Manchester City are going at the ballpark of the ball, monopolise it, literally pin Bournemouth back within their own half. They're going to keep being persistent until they find their opening to hurt Bournemouth within the final third. And this should be an easy victory for Manchester City. We know Manchester City have scored the most goals, Bournemouth have conceded the most. However, I am going to show a little bit of respect for Bournemouth, especially since they did pick up a massive 3 points against Lopetegui's Wolves side. And we know they have been impressive ever since he took the mantle as the manager of Wolves. Bournemouth, a lot of people did feel like they were dead and buried, including me, but they're showing fight, they're showing desire, they're showing hunger and spirit. And that's the basics and the fundamentals they're going to need if they have any hope of beating Manchester City, especially bringing that vibrant fan base of vitality into play in this game against the champions. However, at the end of the day, it would be stupid of me not to predict a Manchester City win. Manchester City, easy victory, 3-0 away from home. So the next game we'll be predicting is Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. And going into this game, as a Liverpool fan, I should be optimistic, right? Surely, winning 2 games in a row, a Merseyside derby which is never easy to win. Newcastle, who we know were pretty much undefeated except for our win against them at Anfield in the dying embers of the game, but were undefeated at St James's Park. Key players are coming back from injury. Firmino, Jota, Van Dijk. The team are in high spirits, so our confidence is back. We're winning. But as a Liverpool fan, I can't go that far to say that we're back because we're not. Even in the game against Newcastle, who were down to 10 men, we looked like the inferior side. Throughout the 60-70 minutes, Alisson was pretty much the best player on the pitch for Liverpool. And the fact that a Newcastle player won player of the match just tells you everything about the game, despite Liverpool winning comfortably 2-0. So going into this game against Crystal Palace, I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be tough. I'm still seeing the exact same problems I saw a few months ago when it comes to transitional defense, where it feels like their opponents, as long as they have fast dynamic wingers or even number 10s, especially when we know Liverpool have aging and declining players of Henderson and Fabinho within the midfield who do not provide that great of a protection as they once did to the back four. However, it must be said, Liverpool do have an impressive record against Crystal Palace, literally being undefeated in our last 12 games against them, I believe winning 11 of them. So that just shows you how confident we are when it comes to facing Crystal Palace at Anfield or even at Selhurst Park, where we know teams have struggled. And I must add, Crystal Palace haven't been in great form either. They have accumulated a few draws and a few losses, and we know their last victory was in December, which was 2 to 3 months ago. It feels like they've hit a brick wall. It feels like it's going stale at the moment at Crystal Palace, and maybe they need to change things up. But at the end of the day, I do feel Crystal Palace. I do respect them immensely, especially when they have the ingredients and the tools to really hurt Liverpool when it comes to counter-attacking football. Elise, Zaha, who might be returning, even Eze, we know they're quick, dynamic, fast players who can beat a man, and I'm fearful that they're going to terrorise Liverpool, especially since St. Maximum and Isaac were doing this off scrap. However, I feel like Liverpool will be able to muster out a victory. We've got a great record against them. We've got great experience within our side. And look, maybe this might be the turning point of momentum for Liverpool. So I'm going to be predicting a 2-1 victory at Selhurst Park. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Leeds United versus Southampton. And what a massive 3 points this is going to be for both sides, who are currently sitting 19th and 20th within the Premier League table. And if you asked me a few weeks ago which team were going to win this game, come on, it would have been easy. I would have thought Leeds were going to win. A few weeks ago, Southampton looked dead and buried within this relegation scrap, who we know recently sacked their manager Nathan Jones, who wasn't pulling up any trees, who wasn't improving the side, and now they got a rookie manager, Ruben Sellers, who has never been a head coach. However, it must be said, they picked up a massive victory at Stamford Bridge, a 1-0 victory, and we know Southampton have only been able to keep 2 clean sheets in their last 28 games. So the fact to do this against Chelsea at their home stadium, and I know Chelsea aren't great going forward, but at the end of the day, this is a massive accomplishment, especially for a leaky Southampton side, especially since the players know the manager since he was second to Hasenhuttl 2 managers ago. I feel like they're going to fight for him. They believe in him. Leeds, I admit, I feel like they have extremely talented players, especially the wingers of Somerville, Nottm, and even Harrison, who we know is a sought-after name within the Premier League, with Leicester wanting to sign him earlier on in the January window. However, at the end of the day, when it comes to Leeds, they can never finish their chances. Whenever they're in control of the game, dictate the game, dominate the ball, they can never feast, they can never put the ball into the back of the net. So going into this game, I think it's going to be the same old story when it comes to Leeds. Play brilliantly, then scratching your head thinking, how on earth did we not win that game? I'm going to go for another victory for Southampton, 1-0 away against Leeds United.